Oh, I guess can I say something about Agent Gateway quickly first?
Of
Um,
course.
yeah, so last week we had a big release around the Agent Gateway, kind of a refresh of our builds. And we have been kind of talking to a bunch of members in the community for a while. When we started this community meeting, we kind of thought this is the all things AI agents. But we've heard some feedback. Some of the people are not, for instance, interested in Kubernetes. Some of the people are not very happy with, they want to use a different agent framework. So not necessarily happy with the framework we pick. We do have roadmap on K-Agent to endorse more agent framework as well. So we kind of decided, you probably see on the Agent Gateway Discord that we are exploring to set up a dedicated community meeting for Agent Gateway. And I believe we're going to start the first one this week. I'm going to start working on that today after this meeting. So we're looking at Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. So we will be discussing roadmap of Agent Gateway in that first meeting. So if you're interested, join us there, specifically related to Agent Gateway. So pass back to you, Ada.
Awesome. Yes. So let me. Oops. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. So let me start sharing. Why is my fonts open? That's weird. All right. So yeah. So the first announcement. Agent Gateway community meeting. Yeah, I think actually the first thing I want to do is open it up to anyone because I have kind of a larger topic to talk about. So the first thing I want to do is open it up to anyone who has anything they want to talk about or anything they feel like demoing. No need to plan ahead. Just if you have anything cool, or anyone who's new to the meeting who hasn't been here before. I see potentially one new name. I'm not 100% sure. Sorry if that's not a new name, but yeah, if anyone has anything that they want to talk about or bring up, that would be a great time. All right. Take that as a no. Okay. Well, if that's the case, then all right. Well, then I'll jump in immediately. So I don't know if some people saw, but a PR, a pretty innocuous PR, went in the other day. I'll just bring it up now. It was called ADK Task Service. So I wanted to shed some light on what this is and what it means for K-Agent going forward. So we actually made the decision for many, many different reasons, and I'm happy to answer questions about this. But we made the decision to actually switch our backend framework for the backend agent framework of Kagent to be ADK from Google. And as I said, there are a lot of different reasons. I'm happy to go into them, but just for now. So basically, this is the first PR of many. We tried to chunk it out. It's kind of hard to chunk out because it's a big piece of the system. But so this is the first PR of a few that are going to do that. And so basically, the other big change that comes along with this is for those who are familiar with our system today. Right now, all of our agents, all the K-Agent agents run in a single deployment of AutoGen. And it sort of functions as a large deployment of all of the agents. Now, that will not be true after we move to ADK. What we've done is instead created more of a decentralized model where the agents run, each agent runs on its own. And we did this for a number of reasons. Chief among them, well, there are two reasons. One, tenancy, right? So tenancy is more easily understandable. Scalability, right? So you can scale up or even scale to zero when agents aren't being used, so you don't have to hog any resources. And then three, identity, right? It makes it much easier to reason about and also provide identity for each agent in the system so that we can properly do policy and RBAC. And so what this means is that now when you define an agent CRD, what's going to happen is that it's actually going to spin up a pod for your agent, and then, or sorry, a deployment as well as other resources for that agent. Now the agents can of course still communicate with each other, but that's what's going to happen. And so this enables a number of pretty awesome use cases. The other thing that this enables is what we're going to be calling bring your own. So last contributors meeting, we started talking about this concept that we called bring your own agent. And what that meant is basically bringing an agent into Kubernetes, or so bringing your own agent into K-agent, right? So basically allowing you to bring, whether that be EDT, LangGraph, right? Like different framework agents in code so that they can be managed, and other things by K-agent. So we're starting with ADK for that BYO. And so basically what we're doing is to make this work, we're essentially making K-agent um, a sort of a hub for agents running in Kubernetes. And the like actual details of this are basically that K-agent will function as a sort of for those who are familiar with it, Vertex AI allows you to essentially use it as a state management system for agents. So we're doing a similar thing, but totally open source and all based in Kubernetes. So what we're going to allow you to do is basically bring agents, right, that are pieces of Python code, Docker containers, whatever, and run them. And we manage the state, we manage the conversations, we manage the tool calls, right? We manage all these things that are typically left up to you. And so we're turning K-agent into a more generic agent compute, sorry, not agent compute, agent running framework for Kubernetes. Um, so it's a bit of a change. And I think, in terms of why we decided to do it, I'll say that basically core to K-agent was the idea that we wanted an open source agent runtime for Kubernetes. But I think I'll speak for myself, when I started this project, right, this was already 6-8 months ago. The things looked very different, and I think it's taken working with all of you and working on this project for a while to really understand what exactly what exactly we want and where exactly we want it to go. And we've been developing internally a real sense of where we want to go, and how we want to get there. And this aligns really well with exactly where we want to go. And so we're really, really super excited about the direction. I think we're going to unlock a ton of value for everyone in the CNCF and beyond, who want to run agents in Kubernetes and just want to really usher in this new era of software and technology. So we're really excited to have all of you along for that ride. And hopefully we'll have more information coming soon. I'm working out really getting to the final kinks of this system. And so yeah, and we're really excited to be working with the ADK. We've found that it's overall a much simpler framework, and we think that's a good thing, because the reality is that the number of things that we need to do is actually quite small from the declarative perspective, and then coupled with the ability to bring a lot of power with BYO, we think we'll be in a really good position going forward. So yeah, I know that it's kind of a lot of information. So does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns?
How is this changing user experience of K-agent today? Is it transparent to the user if I'm running my AI reliability engineer agent or any other agents we provide?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So in terms of how Kagent works today, uh, nothing changes. It's the exact same. It's the exact same functionality. When you boot up Kagent, the thing that will change is that now instead of a Kagent engine pod or deployment or container, there will be a deployment for your agent that will spin up. But in terms of using the UI, in terms of using the CLI, in terms of actual interaction, it should be exactly the same.
Now, would it be now if I want to have visibility for my agent, should I run it with it still ambient or anything that I could potentially visualize the interaction between the agent, or would you more recommend the agent gateway, I guess?
Um, that's a great question. I don't know. So, okay, I think the answer to that is not like one to one. I think now that everything, I, I'm gonna, I, I don't have a good canned answer for that. I think,
Okay,
you
yeah,
know,
understood. But
yeah.
it can be in the future. I just thought about that because before that's not a problem I need to worry about because everything is in K agent pod. But now,
Yes.
as you explained, it's split out, which is great actually. But I think there is a observability, policy concern people could immediately come to next. The other question I have is, are we planning a K-agent release or big milestone around this? Because I think this is like a pretty significant milestone of the project. So I don't know if there's anything like marketing related we should do around this, because it might be a good idea. Because a lot of people have the impression that K-agent was built on AutoGen, I think it's significant enough, but I'm going to pause here just to hear what other community members say first. Probably more important before we get to marketing.
All right. Well, I don't have a cricket soundboard, but if I did, I'd be playing the cricket sound. So yeah, I mean, I think I'll answer your question, Len. Oh, Dimitro.
Yeah, sounds amazing actually. But I have a question in general, like such a big functionality, you drop it and so on. And I don't remember we had any discussion in detail about any design or proposals. When you say we decided, is this decision was totally internal or it was, or I missed something?
Was it discussed in the contributor meeting that was a week or two ago? Because I remember there was a bunch of things discussed in there.
Yeah, we mentioned in general the SDK support, multiple SDK, but I mean it just to understand, the process on kind of such a big decisions and how this happens in general.
You talking specifically about the ADK? Or are you talking about
like ADK and all this big switch, which is now we see as a PR. We didn't have any proposal, we didn't have any discussion about it, right? It just internally was kind of pushed as a change. And I mean, at this stage, I think everyone kind of agreed to it, and it looks really amazing improvement. But I think just to improve the communication on such things and architecture discussions for future, right?
I think we can definitely improve the communication. I think what happened is that we realized as we're doing the BYO stuff that if we don't do this other stuff Eitan mentioned, we'll just accrue a lot of maintenance debt. But yeah, definitely, we probably should have communicated it better.
Yeah. There's also...
I just to be trying to be honest, because it looks like you pull it like under the table. It looks amazing in contribution and work and everything, but I mean, I just don't remember we had any discussion on that or any like
yeah. No, you're right. That I mean, it's basically when we talked about the BYO stuff, as we kind of explored that further, we came to these realizations, and I think now it's kind of that's kind of the first public meeting. We had to discuss it. Maybe we can like do something like we in other projects I've seen, you can submit a PR that has like the proposal itself. That way we don't have to wait to the weekly meetings to inform people of these changes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I think we can take it on our end as good feedback to communicate, these broader changes better.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dimitri, for raising the concern. I think it's a good reminder for us to have a process for new design and make sure it's well communicated to the community. We might thought we did communicate in the first contributor meeting, but I don't think it was obvious, as you pointed out. Aidan, were you trying to say something?
No, I was going to agree. I think I think that also it's a lot of communities have guidelines for this, and I think we should probably have more strict understanding about how things, because we sort of have some loose rules and things about how we propose and etc., but there's no strict guidelines. And I think as the system becomes more stable and things like that, that sort of process is going to be more and more important. So.
Yeah, I think it benefits everyone. If, for example, someone needs to bring now a new SDK to be supported, right? Let's say I want to bring another SDK plus one, right? So I just want to understand the process, what steps we should do. Should we submit some proposals? Should we review it together? Like all the other projects,
Yeah, no, that's really good feedback, and I think that we should definitely Lena, do you think that you will be able to we can put a guideline in something, and we will definitely also do what the guideline said. Is that going to work?
We can reuse some project guideline. Actually, Dimitri, maybe you can help us review the process, just making sure, or anybody else in the community, because we want to make sure you guys are okay with the guideline. But our idea is not to reinvent the wheel, and just check out some of the successful projects in CNCF out there and just reuse their guideline for design process and socialize that with the community more proactively.
And by the way, if we want to support a multiple SDKs, right, you spin up a new pod and other things, there are some open questions on the mechanism, what we want to support, and what is the minimum requirement from the SDK to be included, right? Let's say, we should support minimum observability, telemetry, maybe some specific security features, how this deployment pod should look like, and so on. Maybe it deserves to be a more a template or standard, right, for those SDKs. I think we've seen an example from Docker when they released the repo with all available frameworks, and they have a template for each SDK and so on. So I'll definitely try to review it from my side, what I understand. But I think we would require some kind of document, at least describing the steps and the minimum quality requirements for SDK to be included in K-Agent.
That's awesome. So we will.
How many demos today? Ethan, you want to show some demo about it, or?
So, sorry, I needed a snack. The answer is that I really wanted to, but I'm so close to getting it working. But I can show you what I have. It's breaking on some string problem, but fundamentally, here. I'll share really quick. So I'll make it a little bigger. So fundamentally, like I said, basically now, again, it's not quite working because there's some references that aren't quite right. But if we look in the cluster now, as I said, we go ahead and check our agents, right? We'll see that we still have our agents, but now if we get wait, let me actually see what label to open. Yeah, if we get our pods in the Kagent namespace, we also have a pod for each of our agents. And as you can see, each of these agents is now, if I get, for example, if I get the config map for these agents, I can see the ADK config that's used to actually start this up. And so if I now check the logs, for example, of one of these agents, you can see that these are my failures here. But when it starts up, right, we run an A2A server on 8080, and basically now every rather than using a bespoke API like we were before, all of our agents are using A2A directly. So now, if you wanted to, you could actually so KAgent has a way of basically multiplexing these A2A servers, right? So it can kind of do A2A discovery for you. But if you want, you can also just directly reach out to each of these agents directly. They're just A2A servers, right? So if you bring your own A2A server, or if we start one up, like it's exactly the same. They have their own agent cards, right? All of that stuff. And so right now, basically, like if you took a look at that PR and what Yuval has been working on, I'll show you. We have now a couple of things that we've added in Python, so we can sort of get an idea of what it would look like to bring your own ADK agent. So we have what's called the Kagent session service and the Kagent task store. So basically, what these allow you to do is you create an ADK runner, which you define here, and an executor, and those things basically just use KAgent and the KAgent database as storage to run the task within the session. And so essentially what we're gonna be able to do is you'll be able to essentially give us Python agents, right? Python code, and we can wrap it, right, with the things that we've created, and then we can automatically just use, so that you will automatically be able to use KAgent as the backend. Now, we don't have an example using LangGraph yet, or any other framework, but it should be, and so that is, like you said, that's the part that we need to work on, Dimitrios. What exactly is that interface, right? When a framework wants to integrate, right? What does that look like? But we think it'll look something like this, where we have basically a way for the actual implementation to use KAgent as its storage, right? Because fundamentally, that's what it needs, right? It needs a backend, and it needs a compatible backend. And so what we allow is for using KAgent as the compatible backend. And so, there are ease of use things where maybe at first you have to pull in this thing as a library and then use it, but then later, right, you can just give us the actual agent code and we can wrap it ourselves. And same thing for other frameworks where, at first maybe you have to use the KAgent Python library, right, from pip. But then again, we can start wrapping it and doing more fancy stuff and doing evals and things like that. But functionally, that's really that's like the meat of the change. It's just a lot. Yeah, it's just, obviously it changes a lot of how the system works because there's no more autogen types. But that's sort of the high level.
Nice. But you said that it will communicate. We are on a Python layer, right? On the engines layer right now. And you said that it will communicate with the database, K-agent database, right? You are speaking about this database, which is currently on the controller side, or this is another one?
So it will communicate with the controller or the HTTP server, which will then talk to the database. So K-agent owns the database, but essentially the engine code, right, it has this session service which will call out to K-agent and say, hey, I need you to create a session with this data, or I need to get a session with this data, right? So the data model and all of the DB operations are owned by K-agent.
All right, got it. Thanks.
Question about the deployment creation. Is this mechanism will be pluggable? Because, for example, maybe you can have a different template for the deployment, or you want to manage deployment using some proxy service like Argo or something else.
That's such a good question. The answer is that at first, no, but we absolutely want to make it pluggable. So if you take a look right now, it literally is six lines of code. This is the deployer, right? So the answer is that we definitely want to make it pluggable, right? Right now it's simplistic, but we would like in the future to make it so you can use whatever deployment mechanism you want, as long as like the contract is basically that it needs to be reachable by K-agent and it needs to be able to reach K-agent, right? That's the only contract that.
So what will be required if we would start this configuration inside service mesh?
If you started this inside of a service mesh, like K-agent would need to be able to reach this pod, and this pod would need to be able to reach K-agent.
Yeah. So in this case, I'm just asking because I think at first it looks like a simple task to create deployment, but if you consider this environment with service mesh or with Argo, there are different other things needs to be considered. For example, like additional permissions, right? Though Argo can reconcile it and delete it because it will decide that it's not owned by Argo, so you would need to put some special annotations or something else. So there should be some mechanism how we prevent it from being like overwritten by external controllers. And actually by having the right owner probably and so on. So annotations and stuff like that. Yeah.
So you can already mess with, if you take a look at the API, in the agent, we've added a deployment spec basically, which allows you to add volumes, secrets, as well as information on the container itself. And that's a good point that we need to be able to add labels and annotations also. And I'll just add that right now here. Just say.
Yeah, but so I think doing this manually absolutely makes sense. There are some things we'll need to consider. I think once this kind of out and we kind of have a better feel for what's needed. So, for example, one of the things that we haven't talked about at all, and we'll probably want to do at some point, is to authenticate the agent, right? To make sure that if I'm agent A, I can write the state of agent B. So I think
is this part of this implementation already,
no, it's not at all. That's what I'm saying. Like before, we want to kind of allow you to write your own deployment manually. I think we want to kind of finish this iteration, then understand what's all the other aspects that are related to this, and then we can say, okay, if you want to do it manually, this is the way to do it. right? Because things that come to mind, at least in my head, we want to make sure. Basically, the advantage of us doing it the way Eitan is doing it right now, that we have very tight control, right? So, for example, we'll probably want each deployment to have a unique service account, so we can adjust for that. Then we'll probably want to connect it with some OTel pipelines, so we can do that here, right? So all these kind of things that are now unknown can be implemented, correctly, because we're doing the deployment ourselves. So I think, once this matures a bit, we'll be in a better position to say, yeah, you want to do this manually. This is all the stuff you need to take into account. It feels a bit early for me right now. That's all I'm saying.
Yep, fair enough.
I have a question. With this model, would the user be able to deploy agent to a different namespace than K-agent? Would that be recommended if, because I'm thinking loud here, right? I may not have access to the K-agent namespace if I bring my own.
Yeah. So you can deploy with this model. You can deploy anywhere. So it right now it'll deploy to the same namespace as the agent CRD, right? So if it's similar to a deployment, right? So let's say you're a dev and you have access to namespace foo, it will deploy to namespace foo. And in fact, because of how it works, we're realizing that Sebastian, you're going to kill me, but we need to have a conversation about how the API works, because right now you can reference things all over the place. And so it means that I'm a namespace foo agent owner. I can use a tool server which references a secret in 7 other namespaces, right? So it's like there's this API, unfortunately, right now is a CVE waiting to happen. So that's a whole other thing where now that it's deployment, it's feeling similar to the gateway API in that we're really like honing in on namespace ownership. And I think that will also provide better tenancy, and better ownership semantics going forward, and allow us to reason better about how the API should work, et cetera, et cetera.
Also, question if you want to enable this kind of agent to agent, right? It should be translated probably to the network permissions, right? Like authorization policy, like which agent can call which agent or which controller, or it's always going through the some kind of, you mentioned some proxy or.
No, so right now, K-agent doesn't take an opinion about it, but and I think that is similar to what Lynn was talking about using like a service mesh or network policy or something like that. Whether or not like K-agent, when you create these things, K-agent should have an opinion about what's allowed to talk to what, or whether that's a separate system that says, hey, these things are allowed to talk to each other. And now that they're, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
I mean, mainly not the opinion about who would speak to what, but actually to have a source declarative information to be able to generate that, that policy. So let's say, like currently, we do not specify, or maybe we do. Maybe if you just look on the tools, and when we mentioned how agent can talk to another agent, technically that can be used as a reference. But okay.
Yeah. No, it can. I see what you're saying, right? Like technically, this thing, our agent CRD defines every other agent that it is allowed to and may talk to. But that breaks down with BYO, right? Because BYO can call anything it wants. We don't know about it. Right? We don't know about it until it happens.
Maybe that's why we need some kind of a way to express it. Like if we bring other thing, we need to tell it, okay, this is your list of agents, and then we will be able to generate all the permissions. Anyway, we still need to go to security, JWT, right? The permissions.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree
And
with you,
the final one, if we use this agent gateway or something, right, which is actually will be added in some deployments, right? How then it will look like? Do you see it compatible fully that this like a separate deployments will be connected via the agent gateway?
That's a great question. Again, I'm sorry. I don't have an answer for you, right? Like I have, okay. In my brain, right? I come from Istio. I come from ambient, right? In my brain, you deploy ambient, right? You have MTLS off the bat. Now everything's talking MTLS. Now after that, right? You can define policies that say, hey, okay, this pod is allowed to talk to this pod, right? Or this pod is only allowed to be called by these, right? So in my mind, and like Agent Gateway provides a layer on top of that, right? Where you say, okay, I have an identity system. And so now I can say, hey, only, right, this pod, let's say Agent X can call me, but it can only access tool, list pull requests. It's not allowed to access tool create pull request, right? So it's just different layers of policy, right? In terms of like what the actual policy enforcement point is, right? Like for us, right, our gateway of choice, Agent Gateway, right, because it handles all these AI native things. In fact, it can also do like things related to A2A, right? So we can make sure like we do A2A routing, right? So there are things that we put in the Agent Gateway that we view as like the way to do that. But I think again, like I think we just need to come up with like as long as I think that policy stuff should probably be separate from K-Agent specifically, only because K-Agent is more about, it's like Kubernetes, right? Kubernetes doesn't actually do policy. It just deploys, right? And that was very specific, right? That was an
Yeah.
intentional choice.
And not everybody needs the policy. The other way to think about it too is that, which is why Istio Ambient is now part of Kubernetes, right? Only a percentage of mesh user needs something like Istio to do policy enforcement. So it may not make sense to have that in K-Agent, but we definitely want to allow people to build integration with mesh or gateway, like Istio Agent Gateway, to do policy enforcement with K-Agent, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm just asking if we are going to have some kind of a profile where, let's say, a simplified profile, a basic one, where there is no gateway, there is just a K-Agent, simple deployments, MCP, right? And maybe we can have another profile where we deploy the agent gateway and we say, okay, now everything the same, plus the traffic will be routed via this agent gateway, and automatically we get the same functionality, but probably some additional features, right? Like because we've seen already, it's very difficult to have this cross namespace naming conventions, other things. And if we will try to build just these two profiles, it gives us already enough of the proof that it's compatible. So we not forgot something which is important for example, the gateway scenario, right? Or you may say, okay, we do only basic one, and everyone else will invent his gateway scenario. But
I think we can definitely provide us samples. We went through this with Istio. If you recall, in the early days of Istio, we had some of the observability stack as part of Istio's profile, and we decided to remove it because not everybody have the same observability stack choice. And as part of the profile, we had to, make sure everything works and keep the version updated. So we ended up moving the observability stack as a sample, which we still provide to Istio user, but we didn't put it in the official profile. So I can see this being similar, right? Obviously, for me, I would prefer Istio and K Gateway, but I can't say that would be the preference for all the K agent users out there. And we don't absolutely not want to limit people just to use Istio agent gateway.
Yeah, especially there is one issue where you try to take a tools, right? And number of tools that you can provide to one model is kind of limited. There is a maximum number of tools accepted by the agent in one session in context, right? And I think the agent gateway has a capability to give you just a virtual set of tools, right? As well, and other things. But if we are not using the agent gateway, this is not available. So this is just coming as our definition of agent or other things. So and I think that's become a problem. Either we need like this subset of tools to manage as a kind of separate abstraction, or we keep just keeping it in the current implementation, but then it will look like we need like a totally two different definitions of agents, right? One for gateway and one for the simple one. And the same as Sebastian, I think, was trying to do with multi-namespaces and other things. If you change it just a little bit, then you immediately fail with naming convention and discovery. It's like the tricky think about it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's an interesting agent identity and naming is a whole like, yeah, coming up with goal names. But I agree. It'll be, yeah. I don't have an answer today.
So if we are done with this topic, one thing I want to quickly mention is Linux Foundation do have mentorship program. We missed it for this quarter for K-Agent because when the program was opening, I think K-Agent was just in the process of being accepted as a CNCF project. But for the next quarter, we definitely want to leverage the program. So if anybody interested in submitting something for the program, I think it's open for, it needs a maintainer to sponsor the program. That's the only requirement. My initial thinking is we would love to have people coming and building agents for K-Agents for many of the CNCF projects out there. And I want to have people help us to do outreach, to reach out to these projects and demo some of the agents they build. And I think somebody else maybe had an idea around maybe build some sample MCP servers for some of these projects too, and then integrate them back into K-Agent. So if you have creative ideas, let's have some discussion in Discord, because I would love to kind of submit a few ideas and get a couple of mentees selected for K-Agent.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have any other topics we should be discussing? Is there anything around release updates, Ethan, we should cover?
Yeah, just that the work we've been talking about today should hopefully be, I literally in this call, I don't know if people caught it, but I saw it working for the first time. So hopefully we'll have this merge soon. That would be awesome. And once that goes in, we'll do a 0.5. So that is I think honestly that we're going to be doing a couple major releases over the next couple of weeks, or like over the next month probably, for this ADK change, and then also as others are aware, that we talked about in the contributors meeting, we have a new tools deployment method that we're working on, and so when that goes in as well, we're planning on actually. Let's talk about this in the contributors meeting on Thursday, because we would like to make some changes to the API. And so when that goes in as well, we'll do another release, but we didn't want to bundle that up with the current change. just because it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. So rather than do that, we're gonna separate the two. And so yeah. So basically, with that in mind, we will. Yeah, so we'll talk about the new API or changes that we want to make to the API on Thursday with everyone, and then yeah. But hopefully, once this goes in, we'll do an 0.5 and let everyone play around with it and BYO and all that. So.
Awesome. So the next contributor meeting is in 2 days, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I'll put it on the docket. We're going to talk about API changes, and also. Sebastian, I would like to also include your Helm change in that release as well.
Right.
So I will. I'll be hopefully merging that in the next couple of days, and then I'll figure out how to get that into my changes and everything. That's my problem. But that's another good reason to do a release. So.
All right. If you have any questions about this or need any assistance or something, or want to merge your changes on the Helm side to my branch,
I'll figure.
Oh, all right. I know that I know that you will figure it out, but I know also that you are busy. So
Yeah. No, thank you so much. All right. I'm gonna go eat lunch because I'm starving. But I will talk to everyone later. All right. Have a
Thanks,
good rest of your day.
everyone. Bye.